I'm going to ask if you can hear me, and I'm the only person here. Well, I'll give you folks a second. Well, I know. I'll reenact 1 million BC. I'll get you, Ellen. I'll get you, Erwin. Ah. You knew I was insane when you checked in. Big Guys 45 in the house saying first, and hopefully not the last. Great to see you, BG45. Lance Chafer in the house says, hiya, Thrash. Awesome. Superplex. Condolences to the people of Florida at this time. And while we're at it, yes, commiserations to our friends and family and folks of Florida, but also Superplex, of course, and many of our other friends come from Puerto Rico, and they were also hit very, very bad. So let's take a moment and commiserate all the people of the Gulf who have been whacked by this very bad hurricane, the fifth worst in U.S. history. Okay, a lot of people saying hello to each other. That's one of my favorite parts. You know, Dave was talking about that the other night. All the people like chatting with each other and having fellowship. It's actually just as much fun as the comments directed at me. James Dye in the house. Hi, Thrash and everyone. Daryl Johnson says UB. That's Uncle Bob. DJ. Good to see you, DJ. Let's see who else we got. Well, some people filtering in. I'll keep an eye on. I'm going to try to do this with my glasses as long as possible. I hate the glare that I get from the screen. Keith E. Yo. All the turkeys are headed up to your house. They certainly were. Oh, Pat, the Golden Rage of TV says, hey, gang. Hey, Robert. Pat, great to see you. How's things your end? Still working out those technical problems? Well, you made it with us, and that's always welcome. Thank you. Zuplik says, looks like another hurricane, Andrew. You know, Cape Cod is so overdue for a hurricane. It's like every time hurricane season hits, we bite our nails until November 1st. The last big hurricane we got was over 30 years ago, was Hurricane... Go ahead, let's hear it. Hurricane Bob. Yes, I know. I've been getting jokes about it for 30 years. But we got racked. It's so funny. I keep a hurricane preparedness kit in the house, but if a real hurricane ever came this way, we'd all go to the Berkshires. Although, ironically, the last time we got hit in New England, Vermont got it the worst of all of us. So that plan may not hold water. No pun intended. I'm just scroll down to make sure that I'm not missing anything important while I'm blabbing away. Big Guys 45 says, and hopefully I can boost up other users here as well for much subscriber and YouTuber success. So you're very welcome, good folks. Yes, you guys have all been instrumental in me getting new subscribers, but here's the weirdest thing, by the way. I lost 2 subscribers yesterday. I'm back down to 187. Was something I said? You know, I'm starting to take it personal. It's like, well, people come and go, and that's all part of the game. But I'll keep trying until I hit 200,000. Chrome Minion in the house says, hey, Thrash, chat. I shall. Let's see. Big S45 I'm not going to tell my personal details. Sorry. No, we can have chats, but always maintain your personal details to person. Golden Range of TV says Dave and I will be doing the stream we plan next Tuesday. Awesome. I'm going to translate that to, that means Thursday should be free. So I'll be doing my 8 o'clock live chat next Thursday as well, unless, Pat, you and or Dave have some other plan for Thursday, at which time I will do my live after-party show. Daryl Johnson said, oh, wanted by the FBI, huh? Yes, where's Mr. Zibilis Jr. when you need them? Hungry Jerk. Tom is in the house. Says, hi, everyone. I thought you had a convention to go to tonight, Tom. Well, I'm glad you could make it. Mike Silva said, cool, golden. Yeah, that was a play on the turkeys that were in my yard. But I thought since everybody loves a good golden turkey, or now they're called, I think, the Razzies. We could talk about our favorite bad film, amongst any other topics. And hi to you as well. Mike Silva says hi, Pons. Hi to you, Tom. And hi to you too, Mike, as well. John Doe in the house says hello, everyone. Hello to you too, John. Fred Smithberg is with us. What's up? Atlan's Cheffin. Sarita Abney says, hey, Thresh, sorry I'm late. We started literally 3 minutes ago, and we wouldn't have started without you, Sarita. Let's just waiting for some more people to filter in. Keith E says, when I just put my thumbs up in, it said there was 0, so we must be Emma logging the crap out of Pons tonight. Well, there's 12 people, and I see 12 people and 6 likes, so that has improved since you hit the like button, Keith. But thank you for keeping on top of things. Fred Smithberg said, anyone watch an old, interesting sci-fi movie in the last week? I did. I watched Return of the Living Dead. I pulled it out and just popped it and watched it. But I got to tell you, one movie that I meant to watch, I just haven't had a chance, is you folks know our friend Retro Nerd Girl. She does some absolutely outstanding sci-fi retrospects. If you haven't checked out her channel, please do. Tell her Thrash sent you. She gets a kick out of that. But she did one on Planet of Vampires, which was, I believe, it was a co-production, but mostly Italian. Mario Bava directed it, and it works on so many levels. It's one of the movies that inspired Alien, even though Ridley Scott swore he never watched it. It's a really cool sort of horror, psychological thriller sci-fi movie with a really cool twist ending. I know I have it somewhere in my collection. I am going to dig it out and watch it over the weekend, and I highly recommend, if you get a chance to see Planet of Vampires, do it as well. It also occurs to me, Return of the Living Dead isn't that old a movie. If it came out while I was alive, that's not that old. But I do love Return of the Living Dead. I love a good horror comedy. John Dose has been watching MST3K. Love MST3K. Love Riff Tracks too. If you have a chance to check out the Riff Tracks, they've done some great stuff as well. Zerblick says, watched a great German movie entitled "The Forest for the Trees." Is that about the Teutoburg Forest and the battle with Rome? Well, let us know, Superplex. Mike Silva says, seen all 12 seasons of MST3K. Dave Clore in the house. Hey, gang. Hope all is well. Dave, great to see you as well. Crow Minion says, Plan 9 is awesome. Here's a little fun fact for you. Night of the Living Dead, the game changer zombie film, was originally going to be a ripoff of Plan 9 from Outer Space. It was going to be an alien invasion which resurrects the dead, only they were going to do it in a slightly better format. It was the same premise they used when they made 1 million BC. It's like, let's just do a ripoff of the earlier 1 million BC with a slightly better production value. As they were in pre-production, though, it just wasn't working. So they go, you know what? Let's make it just about the zombies, and we don't know what started their assault. And to be honest, the ambiguity, I think, worked better. But now every time I think of Plan 9, I think of its connection to Night of the Living Dead. Zublik says it's about a young teacher in a forest full of trees. Okay, dope. Mike Sylvia says Riff Track Super Mario Brothers movie. We were just talking about Super Mario the other day, weren't we? And the Saturday Morning Kids show with Lou Albano. And I meant to look him up. I totally forget. I'm so sorry. But I believe Luigi was played by the actor who's best known for playing the bartender on the Jeffersons. He had a recurring role as George's confidant. Gerald Johnson says, I watched Bamboo Saucer yesterday. Not a bad movie. Not familiar with it. Please help a brother out. Let me know what it's about. Mike Silva says Teenagers from Outer Space 1959. It's unwatchable, John. I actually own a copy. It's funny. That's another movie that was quite possibly an inspiration for the Terminator movies. Lance Javen says, I watched The Class of 1999 today. Great sci fi movie. I vaguely remember that one. Croningen says, they're coming to get you, Barbara. You know, he was actually married to Judy at the time. Yeah, that the guy who made that movie, he was one of the producers, Russ Streiner, I believe his name was. At the time, he was married to Judy, who was actually hired as the script consultant. Big Guys 45 says Nile Rodgers had a song based off of Plan 9 movie in 1985 entitled, Yep, you guessed it, Plan 9, LOL. Corny, but really fun sort of stuff. Didn't they use that? There was a musical version of Plan 9 from Outer Space, which was done as a stage play around that time. Was that song used in that 45s? If you know, either way, let me know, please. Mike Silva says yes, Pawns. Thank you for confirming. John Doe says I like Teenagers from Outer Space. It had its moments, although they should have done better than a big lobster for the monster at the end. I mean, come on, who doesn't know what a lobster looks like? Was the film shot in the Midwest and they'd never seen a lobster? Big Guys 45 says he was murdered and somebody's responsible. Love that line. Fred Smithberg says, did anybody watch that guy Dick Miller documentary? Great retro documentary. You can watch it on Tubi TV. I haven't, but I love Dick Miller. He was also actually in the Terminator movie, if memory serves. Superplex asks, who's Dick Miller? He was a character actor who was in a bunch of stuff. He was the cab driver in Gremlins. He was the gun store salesman in Terminator, but he's probably best known. He did a whole slew of old schlocky movies in the 60s, usually Roger Corman. If you've seen Little Shop of Horrors, the Roger Corman edition, he's the guy who eats the flowers. He was also in The Terror, I believe. He played the manservant or something. But let's just see. I'm going to have to roll through these kind of quick because I've just started to get behind here. 17 watching, 10 likes. Thank you, Daryl. Mike Silva says Zuper, he was in a lot of B movies. He certainly was. John Doe says Dick Miller was in everything. He was in a bunch of stuff. Mike Silva says the Hollywood Boulevard movie. Quite possible. Oh, Gary Carpenter in the house. Hello there, everyone. Hello, Gary. Glad you could make it. Daryl Dunn says, UB, are you playing with a stapler? Should I be? I don't think so. I'm playing with a coaster, a very patriotic coaster. But does it look like I'm doing that thing was the old Marx Brothers movie where he uses as a telegraph, like send help. Let's see. But no, I'm not playing with a stapler. I could if you'd like me. Les Javen says it's about the Terminator-like teachers that become killers with Pam Grier, Malcolm McDowell, and Stacy Keach. What's got a great cast. Tom Lenemy says, "What's the subject so far? Old schlocky sci-fi movies. It started with the Golden Turkeys, but now people are just talking about their favorite old schlocky movies. That seems to be where we've started." Mike and Kathy says, "Hello, Mike and Kathy. Welcome to the party. Watch Battle Beyond the Stars with John Boy. Yes, it also starred the late great John Orico, better known as John Saxon. He plays the villain and a bunch of other stuff, and." Again, love that movie. It's one of the three movies that are ripoffs of Seven Samurai. Name the other two. I challenge you. That's my challenge. Name the other two movies that are a ripoff of Seven Samurai. Emily Miller in the house says, "Hey, yo. Hey, Emily, I heard you're getting some nasty weather from Ian coming up your way. Please be safe and take care." And that goes for anyone else who's been in its path. I just did that little jumpy thing. So I'm going to skip back just a minute because I know I've lost somebody. Yeah, here we go. A lot of people saying hello to everyone, particularly Emily. Tom the Hungry Jerk says met Pam Grier several years ago. That is really cool. She's an amazing woman and an amazing actress. Zuplik says, love Little Shop of Horror. Excellent low budget flick. Yeah, the guy who ate the flowers, that's Dick Miller. So I knew you'd seen him in something. Daryl Johnson reminds everybody to hit the like button. John Doe says, message retracted. And a message retracted to you too, by the way. Gary Carpenter says, hello there, Thrash Pondo. I'm here. Great to see you, Gary. Thank you so much. Emily Miller says, oh crap, I'm glad you reminded me. Lance, I still have to send Dave a message. Please do. Not sure what it is, but I'm sure it's important enough for you to send it to him. Mike Silva says, watched a good B movie called Night of the Demons. That's the English horror film, right? Yeah, I'm familiar with that one. John Doe says, let's get Thrash to 1,000 likes, people. 1,000 subscribers would be good too. Come on, people, you must have friends and stuff. Recommend my channel to them. Pretty please. Sugar on top. I know we can get to 1,000. Fred Smithberg said, did anybody see the movie The Long Riders? How many real life brothers were in that? There's actually 4. There's 4 sets of brothers. It's the film that's loosely based on the Cole Younger gang, and it's actually amazing. I love it. I own a copy somewhere. Golden Rage of TV says just finished an interview with Jim Meskimen for the Retro TV Trivia podcast. He's a mega talented as an actor and a gifted impressionist, and he has a sort of famous mother. Comes out of tomorrow afternoon. We will be looking for it. I have to work tomorrow night, but I will probably see it when I get home. After I work tomorrow night. Chrominian says Galaxy of Terror was fun too. It certainly was. James Dye says Robert Vaughn was in Battle 2. Yes, Robert Vaughn was in Battle, and he was also in one of the other incarnations, The Magnificent Seven. He basically plays the same character in both. Mike Silva says Crow fun movie Piranha 78. I love Piranha 78. That was John Sayles, I believe. My mother actually worked with his brother many, many years ago, I believe. Gary Carpenter said Thrasher. He was in the Terror. Yeah, he plays the manservant, I believe, in the haunted castle. Emily Miller says been bringing things in from the yard and getting candles. Rest. Yeah, but get some bottled water too, and some canned ravioli. After Hurricane Bob, I lived on that for like a week. Duplex says Piranha 2 is better than Piranha. Ooh, someone came to play. Chrome Minion says Jack Nicholson was Wilbur. Yeah, Wilbur Force. Wilbur is my first name and Force is my second. Danny Staten in the house says greetings from South Carolina. And a good morning YouTube to you too. I don't say greetings as I believe I was stepping on his toesy woesies. So let's just see what else we got going on here. Great to see you, by the way, Danny, as always. Let's just see. Oh, a lot of people having fellowship. What jamming in the house? Hello everyone. Hello to you, Waja. Fred Smithberg says Zuplex were one of those Piranha movies in 3D. Yes, yes. John Doe says Thrash. What is your top 5 worst movies? Ooh, I'm gonna have to think about that one because there are a lot of movies. I love bad movies. So for a movie to be so bad that it's bad, that'd be tough for me because usually bad films are so bad that they're good. So I will get back to you. S.J. Meloa. I always get your name wrong. I'm sorry. I was going to call you SJ for purposes. Great to be back. SJ, great to see you as well, by the way. Thank you so much. So far, the topic tonight has been bad sci-fi movies that we love. Mike Silva says, Pond's worst movie ever made, Moon Zero 2. I haven't seen that one, but I'm sure it sounds pretty bad. Golden Range of TV says, oh, we're going to get you some well-deserved attention soon, Robert. Pat, I love the sound of it, and anything you could do will be greatly appreciated. You are the man. Lance Javen says, Gary, my camera. Yes, Stacy Keach was my camera. Gary Carpenter says, loved John Saxon. R.I.P. Mr. Roroko. I actually chatted with his son after his death. He was very upset and was looking for information. It was right around the beginning of the COVID. Breakout. Emily Miller says half the time I don't remember a movie I just watched, and y'all are remembering crap from decades ago because we're movie geeks. Golden Ridge says, anyone want to guess who the his mother was? I was wondering if that was going to be uh, a gimmick. Yes, I was. Please tell. Please tell. Mike Silva says, Pond's Fun B movie Earth versus the Flying Saucers. I love Earth versus the Flying Saucers. Uh, did I jump again? Yeah, I'm feeling I'm falling behind, so I have to go back here because I just jumped again. It means you guys are having a lot of fellowship, which is great. But I'm gonna have to skip ahead. Gary Cameron says John Saxon was on Elm Street. Certainly was. Emily Merrill says Barbara Eden. Pat. Ooh, that's a good guess. Mike Silva says I married a monster from outer space. That was a fun flick. Jenny Staten says, "Whatever's left of the hurricane will be here where I live 2 p.m. tomorrow. We wish you all the luck in the world." Yeah, we tried that before you got here, so please be safe. Gary Carpenter says Nurse Ratched has died. That's actually very sad. Fred Smithbrick says John Saxon was everything awesome. My favorite robot of all time was, of course, me being 6 years old and 74 helped. He was great in um, $6 Million Man. Emily Miller wants some hints as to who the mom is. Max always says G.I. Joe cartoon. Because 45 says subscribe to Thresh if you haven't yet. Thank you so much. Emily Miller says, Denny, I'm just north of you. Crumbadine said Invaders from Mars 1953, still one of my favorite sci-fi flicks. That creeped me out so much when I first saw it as a kid in the 70s. Yeah, it's a great film. And I was almost caught up and it jumped again. Let's just see. I'm gonna skim really quick. A lot of people saying hi to each other. Emily Miller says Doris Roberts. Pat, let me know if Emily gets it right. By the way, Fred Smithberg says, "How about Colossus of New York movie? I never saw the whole thing. Seemed cheesy in a good way. Is that the one about the guy who dies and gets turned into a robot?" Mike Silva says The Time Machine. I love The Time Machine. The one by George Powell, of course. Golden Ridge of TV. One of her famous lines was "Sit on it, Howard." Aaron Gray, Aaron Murphy, Aaron Spelling. Lance Javin says Plan 9 from Outer Space. Yeah, we were just talking about that actually earlier. Tom Lungadrick says, Mike, watch the Filipino Spider Man. It was great. John Doe asks, how was the new Monsters? Hard to replace Herman. It certainly was. I must confess, I haven't seen it. Emily Miller says, Marion Ross. Ooh, I was close. We both had the right show. Mike Silva says, have you seen the 1958 classic, The Blob? Emily was right. Excellent. Yeah, I did have the right show at least. Tom Henry says Marion Ross, Pat. So we always get there in the end. Big Guys 45 says rest in peace, Coolio. Yeah, that was very sad. I heard about that last night. Very sad. We'll just see. Daryl Johnson says, how about Creature from the Haunted Sea? No likes. That actually works great as a comedy, actually. A horror comedy, but a comedy nonetheless. Mike Silva says War of the Worlds 1953. Yeah, the George Powell 50s movies were phenomenal. Crumbity says, remember Solar Babies? That's one of the worst films ever made. Yes. So we've got one. I just need to find the other four. Zuplik says, where's sci-fi film Battlefield Earth? Okay, so we have two. I'm so willing to give that to Superplex. Kevin Scott Smith Why did I say Kevin Scott Smith? Kevin Scott 76 just is in the house. Welcome, Kevin. Says just watched an episode of Flying High. Didn't know about it till Dave Sundstrom mentioned it on his channel. That show was actually on when I was a kid. In fact, I think I saw one episode and it got canceled, and I was like devastated because I actually discovered it and decided I liked it. But yeah, it was a good show briefly. Briefly, that's one of those shows where it should have been given a longer chance to catch on. Mike Silva says Star Wars Holiday Special. Fred, it's awful. Zuplex says T-Pawns, did you catch Rob Zombie's Monsters? Yeah, no, I haven't yet. Saw the trailer for it. I might watch it when it comes on like Netflix or HBO Max or something. I believe I'm caught up. Well, I will be as soon as I read these last two comments. John Doe says animated segments from the Star Wars Holiday Special was the best parts. That's what I've heard. Fred Smithberg says Mike Silva, but the Star Wars Christmas Special had Big Arthur. Well, you have a valid point. Tracy Ross Myers in the house says, not much super. How about you? But Tracy, while we have you, how did you weather the storm, by the way? I know Florida's a big place and you're in the panhandle, but we're hoping you're okay. Oh, and she goes on to say, I'm okay, Lance. So apparently Lance had the same idea in his head. Daryl Johnson said, did you watch the Rob Zombies Monsters, David? Yeah, David, did you? Pat the Glorious of TV says, gotta jump to the kitchen to concoct a meal for the wife and kids, and I have nothing really. Got thing I am creative. Bye, guys. Thank you so much, Pat, for joining us. Have a great evening. Great to see you. Take care. Peace. Gary Carpenter says, I heard the new Monsters wasn't that good. Which is a pity because I think Rob Zombie's great, so he could have done a good job. He just based on the trailers, he didn't do a particularly good job casting Herman. And if you're going to do a reboot of the Monsters, you have to have a good Herman. He didn't even get the laugh right. He had that very specific laugh. But I will watch it. I'm just going to wait till it comes on the TV. I don't go to theaters anymore ever since the shutdown. Keith, he says, message extracted, put through the shredder, and then stumped. I'll take that as he had a communication gap. Keith, you're doing fine tonight as far as we're concerned. SJ says Xanadu was awesome animated sequence done by Don Bluth Studios. Xanadu was awesome. Well, to own their each. I wanted to like it. I had a crush on Olivia Newton-John at the time. We all know how the Warriors is one of my favorite movies. I really, really wanted to love Xanadu, and well, I'm glad you did. Oh, Trader Mouse says it went southeast of me. Was and one thing I will say, SJ, is the ended sequence were the best part. The animation was amazing. With suddenly, yeah, that was a very good part of the movie. Wajamin says, good to hear Tracy. There you go. A lot of people saying goodbye to Pat. We'll miss you. Mike Silva says, fantastic movie, fantastic planet, classic movie. It really is. Criminian says, I love Xanadu as a kid. I think a lot of people did. Zublik says, here I hear of substantial damage in Florida. In PR, we are returning to normal. I'm very glad you're getting back to normal there. Zuplex. Tom Laramie says, Dave said Rob Zombies, the Monsters was not. I'm guessing that's good. Yeah, I was afraid of that. Fred Smithberg says, Mike Silva, I love Fantastic Planet. It's a great movie. It's a great movie. Although I've never seen it in the original French. Someone told me it's actually better than the original French. Emily Miller says, I don't have to cook, but I don't have anything to really add to the conversation. Emily, you always are a wonderful presence. We think you're aces, so welcome. And all contributions, anything you say is fun. Let's just see. Kevin Scott 76 says Star Wars Christmas Special is so bad it's good. Because 45 says Rob Zombie is an interesting man for sure. Yeah, he's from my area. I thought he was from Weymouth, but someone says Haverhill. But either way, he's from Massachusetts. Skipping down. Mike Silva said Forbidden Planet. Love Forbidden Planet. Saw it when I was a kid, uh, and just I didn't even realize it was based on Shakespeare at the time, but it's a really good film. John Doe says, "Imagine if Guillermo del Toro directed the reboot of the Monster movie." I love Guillermo del Toro. I love The Strain, the series he did on TV. Les Chafin said Saturn 3. I really liked Saturn 3. Opinion is divided, and I can see why people wouldn't like it. But I thought it was great. Zuplik says, next up, Tim Burton's Wednesday. That could be fun. There was that Adult Wednesday Adams bits that were on YouTube for ages. Although she got sued by the people who did Adams Family, and I'm like, why? She's like resurrecting the whole franchise. Les Chafin said Star Crash. Mike Silva says Crow Death Race 2000. I like Death Race 2000. Emily Miller says Olivia Disco roller skates. What not to like? I honestly don't know. I don't know why the movie didn't land for me. Again, like I said, I had a crush on her at the time, and I thought dude from the Warriors and Battle Truck was amazing. It just didn't. Gary Carpenter says the powers of Matthew Starr. I was talking with somebody about that show out of the freaking blue the other day. I hadn't thought about that show in 35 years, and someone asked me, I go, I remember that show. One of the guys who was in it, the guy who played a villain, was one of the henchmen to Khan in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. I think that's how the whole conversation started. Correct me if I'm wrong, or if we know the actor's name, which I bet one of you does. Let's just see. I was so busy gabbing, I lost track again. So I'm gonna. That was Matthew Scar. Fred Smithberg says Olan Soul was in the English language voice over a Fantastic Planet voice of Batman's Super Friends. Oh, very good. Just see. Lance Chafin said the Barbarians. That's ringing a bell. Daryl Johnson says hit the like button, please. Yes, and subscribe, of course. Tracy West Myers says Spangle is playing the Trilogy of Terror on Saturday. Love Trilogy of Terror. Karen Black plays 4 parts in it. That's amazing. How do you play 4 parts in 3 movies? Tracy West Myers says Svengoolie. Oh, okay. I thought Spangle was some new horror streaming service, but Svengoolie makes more sense. It's a bit good for his show, isn't it? But I'll take what I can get. Mike Silva says 1968 classic Barbarella. I must confess I have seen it. Triplic says, but Dave will still post YouTube videos. I think he certainly will. He certainly will. Kevin Scott 76 says Waterworld was a mess. It was. It wasn't the worst film ever made, but it was pretty bad. I guess it suffered from terrible rewrites and whatnot. I mean, I think the script was pretty good, but they changed it so much that they lost focus. And once that script starts doing that, Fred Smithberg said the old most interesting man in the world, Don Quixote guy, Jonathan Goldsmith, was a red shirt extra in Star Trek. That's amazing. That's a great factoid. Tracy Ross Myers says the actor Peter Burton, who is in Powers of Matthew Starr, was also in Young and the Restless. I didn't know. That I did not know. Gary Carpenter says, yeah, Dave is leaving YouTube. Are we sure about that? Are we sure about that? I heard he was branching out, but not leaving. Zublik says, never liked Land of the Lost. NBC was determined to kill off Saturday morning cartoons. Well, they were mixing it up with live action at the time. Tom Lemley says, the actor of what? the bad guy in The Powers of Matthew Starr was also one of Khan's henchmen, and I can't think of the the guy to save my life. Uh, Mikey Getty says 7-3 was terrible. A lot of people feel that way. A lot of people do think 7-3 was terrible, but I liked it. I'm not sure why I like it. Probably because I'm such a huge fan of um of a guy whose name I can't think of, Harvey Keitel. I'm sorry. I'm trying to think and scan and pontificate and be charming all at the same time, and I only have so many talents. Uh, uh, Daryl Jones says Karen Black is an actress. She did it. I assume we're still talking about Trilogy of Terror. Liz Javin says, "Gang Dave did a video about the Switch Go, and watch it." Okay, I will, because I was not aware of that. Tom Henry says Kevin Costner was in Westworld. He certainly was. Um, Gary Carpenter says Julie Newmar was in Star. I'm assuming Star Trek. Keith E says, I think Dave is just changing the way his fans can send him money, but I don't think he's going to abandon 130,000 plus people that he currently has. That's kind of where I am too. He did do a post where he says you can find him on a new channel, but I don't think he's leaving YouTube altogether. If he is, correct me if I'm wrong, but uh, let's just be cautiously optimistic at this time. Emily Miller says Sleepwalkers was an odd movie. Can't remember it off the top of my head. That doesn't mean I didn't see it. I just can't think of it. Zublik says, I understand Dave is only going to get subscribers from Patreon. And Emily Miller says, Keith and Zublik are correct. That explains uh, that. Well, possibly. Fred Smithberg says Judson Scott was an actor in Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan, also part of Matthew Star. Yeah, Judson Scott, then I guess is the person I'm talking about. Let's go with that. Mike and Kathy says we really liked The Last Starfighter. A lot of people did. That movie was made for geeks of my generation. Kids who spent a lot of time in arcades back when the arcades were the place. It was like the casinos for kids. Gary Carpenter says, wasn't Judson Scott on the Phoenix show? Yes, he was. Yes, he was, now that you mention it. Keith E says, thanks, Emily, for ending the panic. Yeah, Emily, you say your contribution is not of value, it is of super value. Of super value. John Doe says, does anybody remember Super Train? Almost bankrupt NBC. I remember Super Train. I remember it didn't do well, and they really, really wanted it to. But I don't remember it almost bankrupting NBC. London Bridges, great name, says, if you're the golden turkey, who's the silver ham? I would say the silver ham would have to be Sir Laurence Olivier, but that's just a rough guess off the top of my head. But yeah, London Bridges, we're talking about old bad sci-fi movies that we all love. That's our topic for tonight. At least at the moment, we could go on to other things. Mike Silva says 70s classic Space 1999. I love that show. Wasn't oh Maya's father, was he the guy who played Hawkman? Brian Blessed? That just jumped into my head. A lot of people like Last Starfighter. Excellent, excellent. Tom Hungry Jerk says, growing up, we had a movie theater, an arcade, and a comic book store side by side. Oh, that would be amazing. We all had to go to downtown Hyannis, which is in the Mid Cape. That was like the closest thing Cape Cod had to a city, and they had all of those things. But they weren't all together. They were kind of just close by. Uh, Keithy says Thrash would never be a ham because hams can be cured. Ha 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 ha. Very good, Keith. I'm gonna have to use that one. It actually was very funny, and I am going to steal it and take credit for it. James Dice says yes. Brian Blessed was her father. He was great, by the way. He played Augustus and on Claudius. Great, great stuff. Uh, Danny Skitten says Tiny TV Treasures, and which is another Dave Sundstrom channel, and Danny Skitten has given us a link. Thank you, thank you. Elizabeth Javen says Brian Blessed was in Flash Gordon as the Hawkman. He certainly was. Yeah, in fact, I was reading an article about Flash Gordon the other day, and he said that when he was a kid, Flash Gordon was really big in the cinemas, and he always had, like, when he and his friends played Flash Gordon, he always wanted to be Hawkman. So to actually grow up and play Hawkman was like a huge joy for him. Fred Smith Briggs says Space 99, an explosion of the moon so powerful that it blows the moon out of the galaxy. Yes, out of the galaxy, lol. It is a bit far fetched. I must certainly grant you that. James Dye said Brian Blessed also did voice work for a GPS company as the voice of their GPS unit. I did not know that. That's so cool. Trader Meyer says, love Derek Jacobi and I, Claudius. Claudius will speak clear. I have the entire series. Every now and then I break it out and I'll watch all 13 parts, not in a row, but over the course of a week or something. Because you start to binge watch it. I probably do a disc a day, sometimes a bit more. Blick says the only Flash Gordon for me was Buster Crabbe, who was also Buck Rogers. That blew my mind when I was a kid. The two biggest franchises of the sci-fi serials were both played by the same person, who was an Olympic swimmer to start with. He wasn't even really an actor. But there you have it. He also Buster Crabbe was in, I want to say, the pilot episode of the 1980s Buck Rogers with Gil Gerard. He played Captain Gordon. Lance Javen says there's a documentary about Flash Gordon called Life After Flash. It's a good one to watch. It's on Tubi TV. That was the one done by the guy who starred in the 1980 movie, if I remember correctly. Mike Silva says Thunderbirds classic Jerry Anderson show of the 60s. Tom Hugendrick says, met Buster Crabbe in 1979. That is cool squared. Timothy Ross Myers says, I own the series too, Rob. Yeah, I very wisely got it on DVD, and I own it as well. Okay, just for laughs. What's your favorite episode / character? Ian I. Claudius. Oh, and by the way, nobody reminded me. Remember last week we were talking about plausible topics? We were going to do your dream cast of favorite TV shows and movies, and I've completely forgotten what the movie was, but I have my dream cast for Thundar the Barbarian, and it's very simple. Chris, I don't want to get the name wrong because I always mispronounce it. Chris Humanon from Sons of Anarchy as Thundar, Olivia Wilde as the Princess Ariel, the wrestler The Undertaker as Ookla, and the principal wizard Robert Ridgely, because I thought that'd be slick having Robert Ridgely, who was Thundar in the original, play a villain in a reboot of it. So that's mine. If any of you did your homework last week, feel free to present it. Blake says John Hurt was in I, Claudius. He played Caligula. Possibly my favorite character. He played Caligula to a T. To a T. Jove, you ordered us not to celebrate. Yes! And you took me at my word. It never occurred to you that it was my natural humility that made me want to have you show your love freely. No, I must confess, your natural humility never occurred to me. Gary Carpenter says, "Have you ever seen Terror in a Tiny Town?" Yes, I have. So far tonight, I think that's the only actual golden turkey besides Plan 9 we've talked about. But yes, and the weirdest thing is, it's a western where the shtick is all the people who are in it are of very small stature, but they play it totally straight. They don't even reference the fact that they're, for one of their term, little people. It's just a western where everybody is of below average height. It's actually a very fun movie. Uh, let's just see. Big Guys 45 says, Crow Minion, maybe you should start making video content, lol. I think any of you should. And if you have decide to have a content channel, clue me in. I'll be your first subscriber. Why Shaman says, I like Flight of the Navigator Lance. Yeah, it was a fun movie. Mikey Kathy says, I'm retired. I don't do homework. Fair enough. Fair enough. Emily Miller says, I'm mad that I don't remember the movie chosen to recast. You know, it might be one of those things where, because if I can't think of something long enough, I obsess about it. I might go through and rewatch last week's live chat just to find out what the movie it was, because it was a good one. But we'll work on it. We'll work on it. Gerald Johnson, Daryl Johnson, who just disappeared off my screen, said something interesting. Hang on. Raquel Welch as Mary Ann. Too bad she didn't get the part, but Dawn Wells worked out great. She auditioned for the part of Mary Ann. I did not know that. Gary Carpenter says, I've got the cartoon Flash Gordon from YouTube. Yeah, parts of it are still on YouTube. Keith E says, I agree with Mike and Kathy. I don't miss homework. I don't miss spreadsheets. I don't miss meetings. I don't miss having to meet casual chat at the coffee pot. I wish I could retire. Tom Duncan Jerk says, I thought it was Terrors of a Tiny Town. I think it's just Terror. Well, Jamin says, did anyone watch Strange Invaders? He goes on to say, I like that movie. It's ringing a bell, but I can't place it. Tom Henry says, did you find out the name of the actor of Matthew Starr and Khan? I left for a moment trying to find out. Yeah, we did. Judson. I just went past it. I'm going to actually go back because now I'm going to obsess about it. I'll try to find it, but I don't want to get too far behind. But we actually did get it. Judson Scott was the actor's name, who someone else pointed out also played Phoenix, the TV show Phoenix. Fred Smithberg said the idea was for Johnny Quest originally, I think. Ooh, maybe it was. Let's go with that. It was Johnny Quest, which none of us did. So we'll save that for next week. So for this week, we'll do Thunder the Barbarian. Who would your dream cast of a Thunder the Barbarian reboot be? If you care. And if you don't care, then why are you still listening to me? Mike Silva says, "Oh wait, Lost in Space from '65." Tracy Romano says, "I loved Louise Fletcher. Rest her soul. Why is that name ringing a bell? Can't quite place her. Please clue me in." Gary Carpenter says, "I saw that movie in a music video." They used to use a lot of old movies in music videos. Zuplik says, I suggested RuPaul as Johnny, but I was voted down. I can see that. I can see that. Mike and Kathy says, some don't like Space Invaders, the comedy, but we do. Fred Smithberg says, Murder, She Wrote, I think. Mike Silva says, Crow, 60s classic Land of the Giants. Lance Chapin says, bye, guys. Oh, Lance, you have to take off? Hey, well, Lance, thanks for joining us. Have a great night. Your presence is always appreciated. Take care, and we'll see you very, 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 very soon. Peace. Mike Silva says, Fred, voyage to the bottom of the sea. When my mother and my father were first dating, one of the things that like made her feel like she had really made it into the family was they had a tradition every Sunday they would get together and gather on the TV and watch Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. That was like the family's quality time. Retro Cyril in the house says, hi, everyone. Ian, great to see you. Welcome to the party. Twin Myers, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Oh, Nurse Ratched, I'm so sorry. I forgot to put 2 and 2 together. My mistake. A lot of people say goodnight to Lance. Oh. Lance Jim says, yep, Emily not feeling it tonight. Lance, more than understand. Please make it for the next one. Looking forward to seeing you very soon. So Blake says, love Barbara Eden and Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Yeah, and she was in the movie. And her husband was in that as well, actually. He played the sort of religious fanatic dude. Retro Serial says, had a few before the comedy show. How did the show go, by the way? Hope you had a good time. Patricia, I'm going to butcher your name. I'm very sorry. Patricia Gunzler says hello, stopped in to say hi. Very glad you did. We're talking about old schlocky sci-fi movies. Any that you like, please feel free to read the record. Liz Steven says, I'll be back, guys. Please do. The show isn't the same without you. But we'll see you again very soon. Tom Hunker Jerk says, I once broke my brother's flying submarine model. Oh, and he forgave you, I hope, eventually. Kevin Davis says, hey, Nancy. Kevin Davis, great to have you in the show with us. Thank you so much. Gary Carpenter. Gary Thrasher, I'm the one that asked you for Captain Fathom and Space Angel. Gary, thank you. That was driving me nuts. I knew somebody did. Now, did you enjoy my micro review of the shows? Hopefully you did. But thank you. It was actually killing me. I couldn't think of who requested it. Fred Smithrick says, during the filming of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, 1975, Dean Brooks, who played the psychiatrist, diagnosed actor William Redfield, who played the psychiatrist, psychiatric patient Harding with leukemia. Oh, wow. That's crazy. Oh, Retro Serial says, no, I mean, I had a few minutes before the show, so I wanted to say hi. Oh, I thought you were like, well, yes. Well, I'm glad you did, by the way, and break a leg tonight. Tom Laramie says, Michael Lanzara was Barbara Eaton's husband. He certainly was. Lance Chafin says, good luck, Ian. Yes. To all of you who don't know, Lance Chafin has broken into stand-up comedy. He has a show tonight. Let's all wish him all the luck in the world, by the way. He has got a clip here on YouTube. Hopefully he'll have some more down the road, but definitely good luck tonight. Emily Miller says Eden's husband was also in several episodes of I Dream of Jeannie. He certainly was. In fact, he also did one of my favorite episodes of The Outer Limits. It's called Soldier. And remember how we were talking about the templates for the Terminator movie? Soldier was one of the works of Harlan Ellison that James Cameron had to admit in a court of law he had borrowed from, inadvertently or otherwise. Kevin Davis says, I like Macklin, Sarah, and Buck Rogers. He did a lot of sci-fi, and he was always good in it. A lot of people wishing Ian good luck. Mike Silva says 1963 Outer Limits. Yeah, that's the one. Lisa Fields in the house. Hey, Thrash and everyone. Lisa, so glad you could make it. Hello. We're talking about old sci-fi films that maybe weren't good, but that we all love. Let's just see. By the way, if I've missed anyone or anyone's comments, please bear with me. Did I tell you guys, and I'm not making this up, I got over 1,000 comments last week. 1,000. and it's just me reading them. So I got to scroll pretty quickly, and I kind of omit the ones where it's just people saying, hi John Boy, hi Liz Girl, and if I ever miss anything that's important, feel free to post it again or remind me or whatnot, because every comment is cool, but when there's 1,000 of them, cool ones can sometimes slip through the cracks. Let's see. Kevin Davis, Michael and Sarah was on Babylon 5 as well. I didn't know that. Gary Carpenter, she was in 5 Weeks in a Balloon. Yeah, that I did know. That's a fun little movie, actually. Let's see what else we got. Oh, Mike Silva says 50s classic Invasion of the Saucer Men. Lance Javen says, "I'm back. Beware, Lance." Thank you. I knew you'd persevere for us. Thank you. We appreciate that, Lance. Much love. And welcome back. Emily Miller says, "Ian, mention me unless you have to keep it clean." Ooh, snap. Mike and Kathy said, "When Worlds Collide." Great movie. And anything by George Pal, science fiction, is amazing. Kevin Davis says, "The Black Hole" is one of my favorite classic movies. I really like that movie. I really liked it. Let's just see what's going on here. Mike Silva said, "The Screaming Skull." I saw that years ago, and I can't remember if it was MST3K or just one of like Svengoolie or something, but I actually remember it, and it's basically about a screaming skull. Tom Memory says Michael was also the voice of Mr. Freeze in the animated Batman series and movie. That sounds very familiar. I think Dave mentioned that in one of his chats or something. Lance Chafin says, "I can't leave my peeps." And we are your peeps, Lance. Oh, number one dude in the house says Thrash Time. Hey, dude, number one dude, great to see you. Thanks for joining us. Tom Lunkerdrick says, "Met George Powell the same day I met Buster Crabbe." Let me guess, it was a sci-fi convention. Two really, really awesome guys to meet. Retro Serial says, "Do you mind if I post my clip here? Don't want to do it without your permission, but everyone wait until this is over to watch." Definitely, definitely. You are more than welcome to post a link in the chat here. Anytime you folks want to post links in your chats to other things that I or us will find interesting, please do. Emily says, "I don't remember a lot of titles of movies. I'm usually the one with the actor that did that thing." A lot of people do. I used to work in a video store, and a lot of people do that. And I even do it sometimes. Zublick says, "Wasn't there a film entitled Mars Needs Women?" Yes, with Tommy Kirk, and it was actually later remade as a beach movie. Believe it or not, with basically the same plot. But yes, there was one. Kevin Scott 76 says Silent Running is a very underrated movie. It's an amazing movie, and I read a short story was based on years ago. The short story is actually even more interesting. Let's just. Mike Silva said Tarantula movie. There were a couple of them, and they're all good. Mike Silva says Dark Star movie. Mike Silva says Kevin, great movie. Retro Series. I've labeled for shows. Let everyone know. He's avalabeled. I'm not sure what avalabeled is, but Kevin Davis says never seen Dark Star. Dark Star is cool. Dark Star. Pardon me, I'm getting a little parched. It was John Carpenter's student film, and it's about a group of sort of like pioneers slash road workers in the future, and they're sent in a spaceship to find unstable astral bodies that could interfere with space travel of colonists and blow them up. And they've been out for like 26 years, and they've all gone insane. And they're down to their last bomb, and things kind of go downhill from there. It's a great film. You should definitely check it out. Lance Javen says Runaway with Tom Selleck and Gene Simmons. That movie caught so much flack, and I gotta tell you, I liked it. I always thought it was slick. Um, Christy Alley's in that as well, by the way, if I remember correctly. Tom Murray says 22 viewing, 20 likes. Yes, in fact, I think there's a few people in the house who are still with us but haven't been. Feel free to make more comments. I'll try to get to all of them. I know SJ. By the way, I hope I didn't hurt your feelings when I said I wasn't big on Xanadu. But like I said, it wasn't without its charm. It just somehow it. I don't know. So for some reason, um, I did not fall in love with it like I wanted to. Fred Smithberg says, "Journey to the Far Side of the Sun, 1969. I remember seeing part of it, but not much about it." Is that the one? I believe that one was actually meant as a pilot for a TV show, if I remember the story correctly. Um, oh, we have a new guest, Champagne Poppy, who says, "To the center of the earth, to Terabithia." There's a bell ringing. A journey to Terabithia, or to the center of the earth. Um, there have been a few journeys to the center of the earth. So I'm not sure which one you're referring to. And Terabithia, that sounds wicked familiar. I can't place it, but feel free anyone to jump in. Zerblick says Gary Anderson produced Journey to the Center of the Sun of the Far Side of the Sun. It was about a duplicate Earth. Yes, and that was actually intended as a pilot for a TV series, which wasn't picked up, I'm afraid. Music Girl 67 in the house says hello and good evening to everyone. Happy last Thursday in September. May I ask what the topic is tonight, please? So far, my little joke of the golden turkeys is carried. We've been talking about old, bad movies, sci-fi and horror preferred, that we like. Like Plan 9 from Outer Space, or Plan 9 from Outer Space, things like that. So any old movies that didn't do well, but that you like, feel free to read into the record. Gary Carpenter says, "I met Jaws from the James Bond movies." Oh, I thought you were going to say, "I met Jaws from Jaws." That gentleman's name was, I would know like a shot if I heard it. Um, Very cool guy, but I know exactly who you're talking about. He's cool. Passed on, I'm afraid. A lot of people saying hi to Music Girl, who's now in the house. Lisa Field says, "My mom watched anything with Gene Simmons. She loves him." I love him myself. I've been a fan of his since I saw him with Kiss in the '76 Paul Lynde special. Zubla is also entitled Doppelganger. I did not know that. Music Girl 67 says, "Hi and thanks everybody. Glad to be here." Mike Silva says, "Tales of Tomorrow TV show." That also is ringing a bell. Tales of Tomorrow. Why is that ringing a bell? I think I saw a movie that took some of the vignettes from that and put them together and made it into an anthology film, but I'm just guessing. Gary Gabler says, "I love Tarantula and the Giant Claw and the Behemoth. The Great Behemoth, I believe." But yes, those are all classic schlock sci-fi. Kevin Davis says, "Nope, that would be Plan 9 from Outer Space." Fred Smithberg said, "Oh, Mike Silva, was that part of a three-story TV show?" That's kind of where I was too. That sounds about right. Lance Chavin said, "The Toxic Avenger." Yes, trauma films. Richard Keel. Thank you, Tom. Richard Keel was the guy who played Jaws. Uh, Mike Silva says sorority babes in the slime bowl bolorama. I think I remember that one. I think I saw that one on USA Up All Night. Lance Chafin with Hell Comes to Frogtown. I also saw that on USA Up All Night with Rowdy Roddy Piper. It's actually that movie is so much fun, particularly if you've had a couple. Let's just see. Oh, Gary Carpenter just said something. Oh, I like the Swamp Thing movies. Yes, those were good. Music Girl 67 said, "Would Santa Claus Conquers the Martians be considered sci-fi? If so, that's my vote." That's that's definitely a sci-fi movie. It's technically a Mars invasion film, so yes. Fred Smithrick says, "Gamma versus Gaian, 1969, where the alien women plan to eat the boys' brains to absorb their knowledge." Yeah, that one was terrible, even by Gamma standards, but fun, but terrible. Kevin Wilkinson in the house says, "Good evening, Bob." Kenneth, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Wilkinson. Thank you for joining the party. Uh, Emily Miller says, "Dissing Spaceballs, the audacity." Azublik says, "Was such a hot movie." Did I miss something? Oh, I got it from this one. Criminian said ludicrous speed. Gary Carpenter says, "What about At the Earth's Core?" That was was that Hammer or Amicus? Wasn't that an English film? I believe. Kevin Davis says, "I do enjoy Swarm with the killer bees." Yeah. Mike Cathy says, "Santa Martians, yes, bad." Fred Smithberg says Richard Keel was an iconic Twilight Zone episode. It's a cookbook. Yes. Uh, I saw that one on the big screen. They did a retrospective Twilight Zone a few years ago, and "To Serve Man" is the episode. And yes, that's a great episode. He was in it. Uh, I'm a little behind, so I'm going to try to scan through to see where we. Oh, a lot of people in Fellowship. It happens when more people join. Mike Silva says, "Unwatchable Santa Claus Conquers the Martians." I can get through it. Zublik says Japan made some really juvenile Godzilla movies in the 1960s. The quality did start to go down. Mike Silva says Zombie Flesh Eaters and Not Living Dead. Lance Chafin said Godzilla versus Megalon. I remember around the bicentennial in like '76, they did a huge TV release of that movie, like with like they had a guy in suit Godzilla presenting it who did like little gags and stuff in between the commercial breaks, and it was considered a TV event to bring it to television. Robert Dunham, the guy who plays the leader of Zootopia in Godzilla vs. Megalon, was living two towns over from me. He retired to Cape Cod. It was living two towns over from me when he passed on. R.I.P. Mr. Dunham. But yeah, I always remember that one. I think I have a copy somewhere. A lot of people having fellowship. Skipping down. Oh, I just missed something. Something very old. Uh, oh, just a lot of people having. Sorry. Kevin Scott 76 says, "Don't know if this qualifies, but Jacob's Ladder is the scariest freaking movie ever seen." Um, you could count that definitely. Uh, yep, To Serve Man. That was the episode. Crummington says At the Earth's Core was Amicus, I believe. I thought so. I thought so. Kevin Davis says never seen Santa Claus versus the Martians. Check it out. It's hysterical. Check out the MST3K version if you can. Lisa Field says, "Kevin, I agree with you. It messes with your mind." Mike Silva says Gore. Never saw Gore. Never saw Gore. Gary Carpenter says Frogs was on MeTV. I love Frogs. Ray Milland was in that, if I remember correctly. Lance Chavin says the stuff. Remember, Lance, I am going to do a retrospect of the stuff. I watched it again the other night. I'm waiting. I have to get the new laptop so I can intersperse like clips and stuff like that. I want to actually do something of a little higher quality than me just ranting for a couple hours like I normally do. But the stuff is an absolutely amazing movie, and I do plan to do a retrospect on it. Uh, I think I just jumped again. Howard the Duck. One point, Howard the Duck was one of the biggest commercial disappointments in American cinema history. I don't know if it still is. It certainly was. Well, Gemma says, I remember Howard the Duck, Tracy. Yeah, we all remember it. Zuplik says, watch Lucio Fulci's Zombie, Emily. Is that the one where the zombie fights the shark? Because that's a good one. Gary Carpenter says, I love the wonderful movie Pia Zadora was in the movie. Yes, that's Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. Lance Chavin says, Motel Hell. You're bringing out gold tonight, friend. That movie. When I first saw that when I was much younger, that one was really creepy. Gary Carpenter says Peter Cushing was in At the Earth's Core. He certainly was. He certainly was. Truth Myra says The Blob. I'm giving you the original. Cruminian says Motel Hell was great. It certainly was. Emily Miller says I vaguely remember that one. Tracy. Musical 67 says hi, my Zuper and Tracy. Cruminian says Gary Carpenter. Yep, and Doug McClure. He certainly was in it. He played the hero. Tom Hunger Jerk says Motel Hell with Rory Calhoun. He was in that, wasn't he? Yes, he sure was. Lance Chafin said Chud. That's another good one. Gary Carpenter says Carol Monroe was there as well in Journey to the Center of the Earth. He certainly was. Lance Chafin says Black Christmas. I assume you mean the original. And yeah, that's considered the first slasher movie ever made. And I don't want to give anything away, so I can't speak much to it, but it meets the trope of your modern slasher film in so many ways. It's considered the original. Just Ellen Miller says, sounds like I need to watch Motel Hell. It's a good one. Miss Girl 67 says, Emily, I think you can watch the original The Blob here on YouTube with Steve McQueen. You probably could. Tom Henry says, Big Guy 45, are you on? He was a while ago, but we haven't seen him in ages. I think a lot of people either like discreetly dropped out or just haven't been making comments. But if you're all still there, hello everyone. Let's see. Lisa Field says, Emily, it's scary and gross. LOL, it certainly is. Emily Miller says, Eraserhead, weirdest movie ever. It certainly is. It's literally the weirdest movie ever. It's good, but I saw it in the theaters when I was in college, and then well, Jemin says I agree with Emily. Fred Smithberg says Phantasm gets better every year. Long live the tall men. You can watch the whole thing online. Excellent. Mike and Kathy said, how could somebody come up with the idea for Howard the Duck? They stole it from a comic book. It was a comic book at the time when anthropomorphic characters were very popular. So someone came up with a Howard the Duck and then decided to do a crossover with the Earth. And Big Guys 45 says Tom Laramie was taking a snack break. Sorry. No worries. We're just glad you're still with us. Lance Chavin says prom night. Yeah. Tom Hunger Jerk says Charlotte Stewart in Eraserhead is my neighbor. That is too cool. That is so cool. Wow. Tell her I loved her in that movie. Keithy says, I remember watching the Blob movie when I was about 7 years old, quite impressed with it, and asked my mom for some jello. It's funny you mentioned that. My grandmother had made me crepes, which I used to eat with strawberry jam. And a dollop of it fell onto my lap when I was watching the movie, and it actually turned my stomach. I mean, I realized it was a strawberry jam, but it was like, for a moment, it was like, ew, ew. Uh, I'm just skipping down. Daryl Johnson said, It conquered the world. Daryl, love that one. Love that one. Great movie. Gary Carpenter said Green Hornet was a bomb. Yes, sadly it was. Pity, too. It could have been a good one. Chromium says Gary Carpenter. Oh, just Carpenter's Prince of Darkness is one of the finest horror flicks ever, in my opinion. Uh, Mike Silva says The Hills Have Eyes 77 classic. I'll get you that. Retro Serial says Space Raiders. Is that the one we were talking about the other day? The one you couldn't think of the title, and we went to great lengths to try to find it. Space Raiders. That sounds like the appropriate title. Emily Miller says I like My Bloody Valentine, but only because of Ackles. I think I saw that one in the theaters, or at least at a midnight movie. Lance Chavin says Toolbox Murders or The Last House on the Left. Both excellent films. Fred Smithwick says Retro Silhan never heard of Space Raiders. Looking up now, I see Hawk from Buck Rogers was in it. Wow, good catch. Big S 45s. I'll be leaving around now. Peace out. Make sure to like and subscribe to Thrash Pound if you haven't yet. Please, thanks. Big S 45s. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. By the way, absolute pleasure as always. Thanks, and thanks for the like and subscribe references, and we'll see you very, very soon. Tom Laramie says, Gary, so was the Lone Ranger too much CGI stuff like Wild Wild West with Will Smith. I hated the Wild Wild West with Will Smith almost as much as I hated I Am Legend. Mike Silva says the Green Slime movie. I really like the Green Slime movie. I like the music number that it accompanied it as well. Emily Miller says the original I Spit in Your Grave was awesome. It scared me. Mike Silva says, agreed, Emily Last House on the Left from the 70s, too. I saw that as well, by the way, years ago. A lot of Wes Craven fans in the house tonight, by the way. I like Wes Craven. I thought he was good. Drethel Meyer says, I like Creature from the Black Lagoon. Those are classics. They certainly are. Let's see. Oh, let's Jeff brings up another good one, The Funhouse. I'm sure I saw that one. I just can't place it to save my life. Tom Drake says Charlotte Stewart used to party with Jim Morrison. She's got some great stories to tell. Ooh, I can imagine she would. Tom Henry says, yes, Mike Silva, the Batman movie 66. The Batman 1966 movie was good. Lance Chafin says, love the 1988 Blob remake. I had its moments. I prefer the original one, but it did have its moments. I'll give you that one. Gary Carpenter says the original Hyper cartoon was great. It certainly was. Kevin Davis says, did anyone see the Monsters movie on Netflix? I haven't, but I haven't heard anything good about it. Zublan, I'm afraid. Zublan says Mr. Frost was an underrated movie with Jeff Goldblum. I love that movie. Saw it years ago. I got my wife to watch it, and she liked it. Music Girl 67 says, I agree about your April Fool's Day, M. The twist at the end was a big surprise. Crummington says Silver Bullet. I remember that. That was based on Stephen King, if I remember correctly. Emily Miller says, "Does anybody remember a movie with Stucker Channing called The Girl Most Likely to?" Yes, and when it was on, I couldn't watch it because I thought it was too racy for me. Lisa Field says, "Anybody seen Wizards?" I think 1977. I actually have a retrospect planned on Wizards. Ralph Bakshi. Yes, in fact, Tom. It's also one of his favorite movies as well. The Hungry Jerk. Absolutely amazing movie, by the way. Yes, definitely. Tommy just said. Tommy just said, "I love Wizards, Lisa." Boy, you guys are easier at keeping up on these than I am. BK on the air. Hey, Thresh, sitting on the beach checking in. BK on the air. He's on vacation right now, and he took the time out to come in and say hello. BK, I can't tell you how much that means to me and the rest of us, by the way. And again, if you haven't subscribed to BK on the air, please do. He has an absolutely amazing podcast here on YouTube. Check him out, please. Thank you so much for joining us, BK. Great to see you. Gary Carpenter says, "I hate WWW. I feel like I'm missing something." Mike Silva says, "Fritz the Cat was a classic." It sure was. I have some of the old comics, I believe. My uncle gave them to me. Fred Smithberg says, "Speaking of the Howling and Cujo, I swear I just saw D. Wallace in a Dish Network commercial." She probably did. Ooh, Mike and Kathy says, "Hope is on a Florida beach." He actually just told me earlier that he had left from what became the danger zone. Apparently, things are pretty solid where he is. He told me where he is now, and I forget, but it's out of the zone of danger. Mike Silva says, "Classic movie from the '60s called Time Travelers." Yep, saw that one. Zublik says Fritz the Cat was the only X-rated cartoon at the time. There had been more since, but at the time it was the first X-rated cartoon. Lisa Field says, "I was just watching Stand By Me before the chat." I was just thinking about that movie earlier today. I'm not sure exactly what popped in my head, but I absolutely loved that movie when I saw it on the big screen when I was in college years ago. Bill Miller says, "As a child, I wasn't told I couldn't watch much. I grew up on Soap, The Exorcist, and Roger Miller. My mom sent me to bed early one night because I wanted to watch an episode of Soap for whatever reason. I think all the kids in school were having an argument, and basically, it's well, if you can't watch something else, you can't stay up to watch TV at all." And I got sent to bed. Gary Carpenter says, "I love Murder by Death. That's a fun movie." Keith E says, "I heard about Fritz the Cat, but I always kind of thought it was not true, but I guess it was." Yes, it was actually. They re-edited it to an R version for the rental market. They cut out a couple of scenes here and there, but the original theatrical release was rated X. And then there was Fritz the Cat Rides Again, which was R, but the original Fritz the Cat was rated X. BK on the air says, "Hi, everybody. Loving the chat. We love having you with us, by the way, BK. We're talking about golden turkeys tonight, or at very least, old, bad, schlocky movies that we liked with varying degrees of success." Lisa Field says, "Fritz the Cat is on Prime Video. I had to turn it off." I can't say I blame you. Let's just see what else we got here. Daryl Johnson said, "The zone of danger." Yeah, I wasn't sure the best way of putting, because you know how hurricanes have that cone, and the cone sort of fans out, and anyone outside the cone is okay. Anyone inside the cone needs to like watch carefully. But yeah, we'll do danger zone. So, why did Kenny Loggins take the Autobahn to Danzig Heisinger? Because he wanted to take the highway to the danger zone. That works better if you know German and Danish geography. But moving forward, Tom says, "I liked And Justice for All with Al Pacino. He plays an honest lawyer." That's a great movie. I saw that actually in when I was doing a class on law in American film. Uh, I think I just got kicked back, so I'm just going to scan really. Oh, Tom Lugerdrick says, went to the movies when I was 12 to see Wizards, but watched Flash Gordon instead. I'm naughty. Naughty, naughty, no biscotti. Music Girl 67 says, hey, Thrash, between The Car and Christine, which is better in your opinion? They're both good movies. I'd probably go with Christine. A little bit better character development. Um, Kevin Davis says, my parents let me watch soap. Yeah, my mother was kind of a prude. Not sure why. Lance Chafin says, wrong turn. That was kind of a sleeper hit. I saw that one in the theaters, but I thought it was a good movie. Kevin Davis says, Stand By Me was a good movie. It certainly was. Mike Silva says, Fritz the Cat is a fun movie. It is. It is. It's a little raunchy, but it's a fun movie. Croman says rim shot. Mike Silva says Crow, classic movie Night of the Comet. One of my favorite movies of all time. In fact, I was just mentioning it. It was one of the inspirations to Buffy the Vampire. I'll come in again. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Daryl Johnson says The Cone of Death. Ooh, I like that. The Cone of Death. Well, Jimin says, oh, I just missed it. I have the 3rd through 15th series completed of the Garbage Pail Kids. That's just too cool. Newsfield says, loved Out of the Comet. Great movie. Retro Serial says, why did Cameron call the metal in Avatar unobtainium? I don't know. I think it's just a play on words because it's supposed to be that McGolfin, that one thing that you're trying to get that you can't. Avatar is just it's an amalgam of like every science fiction book he read as a kid. See, he learned his lesson when he ripped off one sci-fi writer to make the Terminator. He got sued. When you rip off 15 science fiction writers for the same work, it's an homage. And hey, it worked, and it made $15 billion. But why call it unobtainium? It's a cute name. And it's probably just a combination of antimatter and regular matter, which was something that Brian Aldiss used in Legend of Smith Birth, by the way, which is where I stole the nickname Thrash Pondo Pons, by the way, for people out there keeping score. Tom Lungajuk says, that's great, Waj. I'm the same way with wacky packages. I don't have all the wacky packs. I have a lot of them. I don't have all of them. I do, however, have the Dinosaur Attack complete. Let's just see. Chromium, speaking of animated heavy metal, one of my favorite animated films of all time. Lisa Field says, Mike, I like demon and zombie movies. Who doesn't? Actually, Superplex doesn't. Superplex says the guy who did Fritz the Cat also did the cartoon Lord of the Rings, which is the first movie based on a trilogy. Ralph Bakshi. It just jumped on me again. Mike Silva says, Lisa, 80s classic Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Great film. Kevin Scott, 76, Night of the Comet. A lot of love for Night of the Comet tonight. Kevin Davis says, I want to get a brain transplant at the end, but I changed my mind. Love it. Love it. John Doe says, had to go, but I'm back. Yeah, a lot of people have kind of been in and out tonight, John, but very glad you're back. Gary Cameron says, have you ever heard of 8 Heads in a Duffel Bag? I've heard of it. I've never seen it. Oh, Wajamin says, yes, Gary, with Joe Pesci. Heard of it, but I've never seen it. Lance Chafin says, Soylent Green, food is people. Yes, it's people. Did you ever see there's an old SNL bit on that where they do the sequel to Soylent Green, and it's still people. They didn't change the ingredients. It's still people, and it's like it's hysterical, but a little on the nose. Retro Zero says, because no one tells James Cameron when he has a bad idea. Too true. Too true. You should use that in your show tonight. Kevin Davis says, I thought Avatar was boring. A lot of people did. It was more just the fact that it was visually stunning. The story is, well, it is an A story. It's a bunch of stories just sort of slammed together. Mike and Kathy says, Soylent Green is good. Yummy. I actually read Make Room, which is the novel by Harry Harrison it's based on. And the cannibalistic ending isn't even in the book. It's just a procedural film, police procedural. Fred Smithberg says, DeForest Kelly, Night of the Lepus, nothing more terrifying than rabbits. Well, giant rabbits, LOL. I have seen Night of the Lepus, and it's not as bad as everyone makes it out to be, but it's well, all right, yeah, it is. Mike Silva said, Pod People movie. Which one? There's a bunch of them. A lot of people like Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Ken Wilkins says, I like Plan 9 from Outer Space. Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier. In fact, little known fact, when I was doing some research, I found when they were making Night of the Living Dead, originally it was going to be a ripoff of Plan 9 from Outer Space, just with better production value. Because, of course, it's about aliens that resurrect the dead to try to take over the Earth. While they were making the film, they just decided to drop the alien subplot and make a much tighter script. But yeah, it had more influence than people think. Trey Minor says, gotta go to bed. Have a great night, all. Tracy, it was so nice you joining us, by the way. Take care of yourself. It's always nice having you in the house. Glad the hurricane didn't ruin your day, and we'll see you very, 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 very soon. Lisa Field says, Lance, my daughter said it was a good movie. I'm guessing Avatar. Tom Laramie said, Emily, I know you aren't talking to me, but I think Vincent Price was in House of Wax. That was the original. I think she was talking about the Paris Hilton remake. And I'm going to skip back down because I had to skip up for a second. Mike Silva says Invasion of the Body Snatchers 56 classic. There's a lot of good movies based on body snatchers, and Retro Nerd Girl has a wonderful theory about Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but I'll let you actually see it on her latest post. It's the one about Planet of the Vampires we were talking about earlier. Lisa Field says, anybody like the movie 9? I know Thrash does. Yes, I think a lot of people do. Retro Serial says, one more time, here's my link to my comedy clip. Only watch after this show is over. Thank you, Retro, and again, great luck tonight. Gary Carpenter says, I love Yellow Submarine, one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. I still like it to this day. Kevin Scott 76 says, The Abyss is probably the most underrated movie ever. I don't know if it's the most underrated movie ever, but it's a great movie. Lance Javen said The Audition. That movie freaked me out when I first saw it. Let's just see. Mike and Kathy said, I liked Invaders from Mars. I assume you mean the original, but the remake was pretty good too. John Doe says, Thrash, you ever thought about a 24-hour marathon? I'd think about it. I don't know if my fans would be up to it, but I don't know. Some people who do that have some pretty good success, so I'd be willing to consider it. I'd have to do it like when I'm on vacation or something, so I could sleep for the whole next day. Keithy said the guy says to his doctor, "Do I really need a brain transplant?" The doctor says, "Yes, yachts are expensive, but I'm bumped." Rim shot. Paul is dead. Miss him. Lance Tiffin. Good Beatles reference there. Mike Silva said, scariest movie ever made, Emily? Kevin Davis says, I somewhat enjoyed Friday the 13th movies, but they got stupid at the end. They certainly did. Lance Chafin said, Kingdom of Spiders. That's one of the names I have in my garage. It's been taken over by Daddy Longlegs. I sweep them out from time to time, but it's a losing battle. I just ignore them when I'm watching a movie. Tom Murray says, like Rodney Dangerfield movies, Easy Money, Caddyshack, Back to School. Those are all great. Zublik says, was the title of the Roddy Piper film called They're Alive? They Live. The pieces were all there. Lisa Field said, Land's Kingdom of Spiders scared me. I have arachnophobia. It really scared me. They were talking about doing a reboot of that, but they did never get around to it. Mikey County said The Exorcist scared me the most. I can see that. John Doe says Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Phantasm are two of the best. Pieces. Lance Gavin said Pieces. Mike Sylvia says Wedge Night of the Demons. Kevin Davis says, I did like John Carter of Mars. Good movie. I saw it, and it wasn't a bad movie. It just, in my opinion, I'm sorry. It deviated so much from the source material that it kind of it kind of lost me. I tried to love the movie and I couldn't do it. I'll grant them. I'm amazed that they finally made it. I mean, they had been trying to make that movie for what, 80, 90 years. There were how many incarnations, and they would get this close and then it would fall through the cracks. I remember when what was it? Sky Captain, The World of Tomorrow came out. That same company had optioned John Carter because they wanted to do it in that sort of retro style. It was going to look like that the very sort of Art Deco 1940s look to it to make it feel like vintage sci-fi. And they dropped the project. So I'm glad they finally got it made, but for some reason it didn't click with me. Zublik says, loved The Fog, not too scary, but good nonetheless. The Fog is one of the classic horror films of the 80s, definitely. Tyler Hungry Jerk says, went to Phantasm San Francisco premiere with Agnes Scrim. The first, 1979. I won 2 tickets. Gary Carpenter says, I don't like the Halloween movies. I like some of them, not all of them. Lisa Field says, It's Alive from the 70s. The commercial for that movie scared me when I was a kid. I used to run out of the room when that commercial came on. Gonzo out there is in the house. Gonzo, welcome to the party. Gonzo says, hey there. Hey, Thrash. And the Thrashers, I still think you should check out Super 8 if you dig Stand By Me, another coming-of-age movie with a very cool storyline. Super 8, I will check it out. As the book says, who is Agnes Scrim? Agnes Scrim the first. Mike Sylvia says, wait, 1978 film Piranha. Yeah, I think we were talking about that earlier today. All the chats run together. Perhaps with another one. Lisa Field says, Gonzo, I liked Super 8 until the end. Tom Ludwig says, he's the tall man. Oh my gosh, yes, the tall man. Okay, excellent. That makes sense. And you didn't go see it with him. You saw the movie that had him in it. Now I'm with you. I thought you actually went to the movie with the person. Kevin Davis says, I enjoyed Sky Captain, very retro-like. Yes, it was great. Unfortunately, like so many other gimmicky movies, when the gimmick wears off, people sort of check out. I love Sky Captain when I saw it in the theaters, but when was the last time you heard people saying, oh, they're doing a reboot of Sky Captain, The World of Tomorrow? But I really did like Sky Captain, The World of Tomorrow. John Doe says, I really wanted frogs after I saw the movie Frogs. Gary Garvin said, John, you're weird. Emily Miller says, unpopular opinion. There are no unpopular opinions on my site. I prefer most horror reboots to the originals. It's a free country. It's a free. If I don't like them myself, I'm not going to lie and say, oh, yeah, I like that. I'll tell you how it is. But if you like them, I might go, but it's still a free country. Mike Sylvia says 1970s film ought involved a terrifying creature attacking Weaver. The plots are all there, but I need more information. Kevin Davis says to each their own, indeed. Gary Carpenter says, I loved Krull, Willow, and Time Bandits. Like, for example, well, I really loved one of those. I at least liked two of those. One I didn't particularly care for, and I'll let you guys figure it out. Tom Murray says, I'm getting off. You'll all have a great night. Tom, thank you so much for joining us, pal. I'll probably be wrapping up in the next 15 minutes or so anyway. But, Tom, thank you very much for joining us. Music Girl 67 said, the movie Empire of the Ants scared me as a child. I remember that one. I remember that one. I don't remember much about it, but I didn't see it. Zubak says Memento was an excellent film. Is that the one where I won't give away the twist ending? People will hate me. Tom Hungdrick says when a stranger calls, hang up. Yeah, good advice. Gary Carpenter says music. Have you ever seen Them? The original Big Ant movie. Lance Chavin said Dress to Kill. I know I've seen that movie, but I can't place it to save my life, but I know I've seen it. Zuplik says, was that with Charlton Heston? Soylent Green? Yes. Mike Silva says 50s best sci-fi movies. They really had some fantastic movies. Kevin Scott 76 says, yeah, you can't breathe on Mars. Well, you can, just not for very long. Mike Silva says Carnival of Souls, Pawns. Yes, I actually saw that in the theaters. It was doing a Riff Tracks reboot. Excellent film. Sublik says Memento, Christopher Nolan film played backwards. Yeah, that's the one. Music Girl 67 says, hi, Gary. No, I haven't seen Them yet, but I've heard of it. Leonard Nimoy has a very small part in that movie. Kevin Davis says Forbidden Planet, the best 50s sci-fi movie. Don't know if it's the best. It's great, and I love Leslie Nielsen, who he plays it as a sort of no nonsense fleet captain, but he's got enough humor to him that really makes him three-dimensional, and we see that humor later on when he does other comedic films. Leslie Nielsen really was a national treasure. So yeah, I mean, Forbidden Planet is one of my favorite sci-fi films, but I don't know. I think I might prefer something like Time Machine. I don't know. I think I like Time Machine slightly better, but again, to own their each. Kevin Scott 76 says, why don't you do super chats? Maybe I will. Maybe I will. I've been meaning to expand more. I mean, we only just get out of my busy season here on Cape Cod, but I mean to do more in the off season. Lance Craven says, okay, night guys, for real this time. This time I have a great weekend. Everyone. Lance, thank you for sticking around. That meant a lot. We know you weren't really feeling it, but you gave it another shot. It was great having you with us for that extra time, and hopefully you had a great time for the remainder that you were here. So, but anyway, yeah, you take care, and we'll see you really soon. Have a great night, Lance. Lisa Field says, I have to go. Have a great night, guys. Yes, Lisa, where'd you go? Yes, it was wonderful having you with us. Take care. Have a great evening, and we'll see you very, very soon. I'm thinking perhaps we should think about wrapping up, guys. Fred Smithberg says to Kevin Scott Smith, I think you need 1,000 subs. I think you're right. But I'll look into it. I'm looking to do more with what I can do. And yeah, a lot of people are backing that up. But anyway, so yeah, if you have any more sort of like last minute questions or things you want to read into the record, please do. Gary Carpenter says Joan Collins was in Empire of the Ants. She certainly was. Let's just see. Oh, so Blake says, Emily, aren't you in Ian's crosshairs? It is moving up her way, and she was talking about how she was preparing earlier. But that's very nice of you to be concerned. Mike Silva says the Carrie movie, assuming in the original. Gary Carpenter says Labyrinth. I loved Labyrinth. Of course, I had a crush on Jennifer Connelly. Music Girl 67 says it would be great if Thrash could start a Patreon. I'm actually looking into it. I was hoping to have it this week, and I was going to announce it tonight, but it's a little more complicated than I thought it was. But I'm looking to have a Patreon, hopefully by next week. So fingers crossed, and get ready for those donations. Ken Wilkinson says, "Good night, Bob. Good night to you, Ken. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always great to have you in the house with us." Zubik says T-Pong should have a Patreon. Thank you very much, Superplex. That means a lot. Like I said, I should have one by next week. Fingers crossed. Emma Miller says, I thought you were talking about Ian, Superplex. No. The Hurricane Ian is moving in your path. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh. The joy of syntax. Emily Miller, she then goes on to say, I was telling the ones leaving goodbye. I'm not going anywhere. Oh, okay. Now that's cool that you're still staying with us. I'm still laughing about you. You meant Ian C. Keithy says, Lance part 2 of the reboot was the best. Part 2 of which reboot was that? B. Well, I'm sure it was something applicable. So, but anyway, guys, I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight. I mean, these chats are great. We can actually kick back and barely even have a topic, more like an outline, and we can chat for almost 2 hours. And you guys are so interactive, and you bring so much stuff. You actually bring so much stuff. I actually have to race through it sometimes. And again, if I ever have to race through something that you guys write and I miss it, don't take it personal. Post it again. Remind me that I've missed your post. Do something, but don't take it personal. If I had more time, I would read every single comment in the comments section. And you know what? Even if I miss it, 9 times out of 10, you guys catch it. I've noticed before, a lot of times you guys are responding to other things that you guys have written in the comments. And again, that's great. It's the fellowship is what this whole channel is about. We learned that from Dave, and he couldn't be more right. So let's see. I've been pontificating, so I'm going to scroll down to see if I missed anything important. Emily Miller says, "I was wondering what I had done to Ian to be in his crosshairs." Kevin Scott Smith, I would say this Island Earth is the best 50s sci-fi movie. That's a great one. I certainly enjoyed. Don't know if I'd call it the best. It's certainly up there. What do you guys think of the Time Machine? I'm still wondering about the Time Machine. Mike Silva says doesn't bother me. T-Pawns. Oh, when I miss one of your comments, I'm very glad that if that you take it in stride. You're one of the most prolific. I you give us many comments, and they're all great. And sometimes they're directed towards us. Sometimes they're responses to what other people have said. Either way, we appreciate every one of your comments. Thank you. Mike and Kathy says, love your channel. Well, Mike and Kathy, we love having you here. You guys are great. Great. And I appreciate all that you've done for my channel as well. Serena Abney says, good night, everyone. Good night to you. It was absolutely wonderful having you with us tonight. Zublik says, this has been fun. To those in danger, take care. Yes, to those of you in the danger zone, please take care. Daryl Johnson says, wasn't Night of the Demon and Curse of the Demon the same movie? That sounds right. I think you're right there, Daryl. Wajamin says, always fun, Thrash, and everyone. Awesome community here. Thank you so much, Wajamin. Great to have you. Oh, according to Mike Silva, no. It was not the same movie. But I had heard something like that, too. A lot of times, particularly English films, had different titles when they're brought to the States. But a lot of films do have more than one title. Oh, John Doe says, Howard the Duck rules. Well, he can put it on his bill. Mike Silva says, "Great movie, The Time Machine." That's the '50s version with that Weena. Uh, Kevin Scott 76 says, "What did you mean by a procedural movie? Did I not say police procedural? It was Soylent Green, the book it was based on. Well, Soylent Green is police procedural. The movie is about this detective investigating a murder, and that's how the whole plot sort of shows its face. In the book, it's literally written as a cop novel or a police procedural novel. It's just set in this dystopian future. But if I had forgotten to say the word police in front of procedural, it would have made no sense. I apologize. Mike Silva says, I live in Pawtucket, right on Ponds. I meant to ask you two things. One, have you ever been to Wes's Barbecue? And two, did you know they closed it? I just found that out the other day. I was serving a couple from Cranston, Rhode Island, and I asked them about Wes's roast beef, and they said it's closed. And I was like, no. I hadn't been in years, but it was the best barbecue in New England, which is like being uh, the world, the warmest city in Antarctica, but still. Mike Silva says, Ponds, it's Rhode Island. Oh, yes, I know the abbreviations. I've been there. Let's just see. Kevin Davis, some sci-fi movie. I missed the beginning, so. Oh, Tom Logan says, thanks, Ponds. No, thank you, Tom, for joining us. Uh, Mike Sylvia, heard about that, Ponds. Oh, so you did know that they closed Wes's Barbecue. I'm very sorry to hear that. It was a great place. I hadn't been in years. John Doe says, has anyone heard of Adventure in Dinosaur City? I have not. It sounds like the Zootopia series, but no, I have not heard about it. Sublik says, your restaurant doesn't barbecue T-Ponds. When have you heard of Italian barbecue? Although I could make that work. Tom the Jerk says, Howard the Duck, Jack Kirby artwork. Very good. I had completely forgotten that. Very good. Oh, Emily Miller says the cartoon on PBS, John. I assume that was the one about the dinosaurs. Mike Silva says Emily the Last Dinosaur, Denver the Last Dinosaur, as opposed to The Last Dinosaur with Richard Boone. Pat Boone. Richard Boone. I was right the first time. Always go with your first choice. Gary Carpenter says we have good barbecue here in North Carolina. I imagine you do. Mike Silva says, Emily, it's on YouTube, Planet of the Dinosaurs. I thought that was the movie that was based on footage from an old Russian movie that they just took the special effects and re-edited together. Oh, John Doe says, no, it's a movie starring the boy from The Last Action Hero. Zublik says, oh, so it's an Italian restaurant. I told you that. I told you I work at an Italian restaurant. Emily Miller says, Gary, are you on the coast? If you're on the coast, Gary, take care. Gary Carpenter says, the little girl from Them is the last of the cast members. And even she would, let's just see, that movie came out in what, 57? So that's 65 years ago. And let's say she was 10. So she's 75. She's not ancient, but she's getting on in years. Mike Silva says 91 T-Ponds. They couldn't have closed Wes's in 91. I think we have two different conversations going on here. And I apologize, Mike. But 90-1, that was a good year. Zuplik says, which them? I assume the one that came out in 1957 about the giant ants. In any event, folks, we're down to 17. People are dropping like flies. Mike Silva says, I'm confused, Super. No worries. Folks, thank you very, very, very much. I had so much fun tonight. I'd like to think you guys had a lot of fun too. I will do a show next Thursday. And again, it's looking like Dave doesn't have a show planned for Thursday night. So why don't we pencil ourselves in for 8-ish next Thursday? That would be, oh, I'm still on September. The first Thursday in October. And topics will include, I don't know, let's do a Halloween theme. Not the Halloween movies, but just um, what our memories of Halloween of yesteryear were, what Halloweens were to us when we were a kid, and how it's changed over the years. That could be fun. And thank you very much for joining us. Oh, and let's just see. Music Girl 67 says, "Good night, everyone. And I'm continuing to pray for those affected by the hurricane. See you all soon. And as always, it's been a fun time. Thrash is a wonderful host. Thank you." Fred Smithberg says, "Have a great evening, all. Thank you." Gruminian says, "Thanks, Thrash. Good night, all. Thank you." Zublik says, "I did T-Pawns. Very good." Mike Silva says, "Great job, Pawns." No, great job to you. Thank you so much for joining us. It was great having you. Emily Miller says, "Thank you, Music Girl." Daryl Johnson says, "The Bad Seed." I remember the original one. That was a kind of a creepy movie. Mike Silva says, "Happy Halloween, Pawns." Oh, we have a whole month before we get to Halloween, but happy Halloween to you too. Wajimine says, "Prayers go out to the people affected by the hurricane." Definitely, definitely. Tom Lunkendrick says, "I gained 40 pounds in 6 months cooking in an Italian restaurant in 2000. Oh, that's easy. I was skinny when I started. Kevin Davis says, "Good night, everyone. Good night to you as well." By the way, it's great having you with us, Kevin. Thank you so much. And I'm kind of late for you, I've noticed. So thank you so much for sticking around to the bitter end. It was great seeing you. Have a great night. Fred Smithberg says, "Sounds great for next week." Yeah, it'll be a good. Let's. We always start with a topic and just see where everything takes us. Daryl John says, "Give me those shoes." Emily Miller says, "Good night, everyone. Thank you for having us, T-Pawns." Emily, thank you so much for joining us. It was great having you. Good luck with the upcoming storm, and we'll see you very, very, very soon. Thanks again. Wajabin says, "Good night, everyone." Good night to you, Wajabin. If you haven't checked his channel out, please do. Some phenomenal knock-knock jokes on his channel. Check him out. A lot of great humor. Zublik says 40 pounds of pasta. Probably more the meatballs. Gary Carpenter says, "I live more inland." That's very good. Mike Silva says, "Looks like KT's ending, guys. We're certainly wrapping things up." Dave Claroni. Dave, again, thank you so much for joining us. By the way, it was great having you, by the way. Dave Claroni says, "Night, guys." Dave, good night to you, by the way. Be safe, and we'll see you really soon. Tom the Jerk says, "Thanks, everyone." Emily Miller says, "You're late, Dave." Now, Dave, tell me while we're here, were you with us and just not making a lot of comments tonight, or did you like literally just get here? Just for my own curiosity. Mike Silva says, "80s cartoons next Pawns." We can throw that in there as well. There were a lot of 80s cartoon Halloween specials. Let's just see. Keith E says, "Peace, peace, peace, peace." Yeah, I'll say peace as I sign out. I forgot to last time. Oh, Death Corona says, "Yes, work got in the way. I was watching the show, though." I've done that. I must confess, I've done that when I used to have to work overnights. I would put late night shows on, but I couldn't be interactive because I was at work. But I've done that. So anyway, Dave, I'm glad that you were here. I was hoping that was the case, that you were here and just not as interactive as you usually were. But thank you for joining us as always. Gary Carpenter says, "Don't forget the Addams Family and the Monsters." Good night, everyone. Definitely, definitely. Yeah. Dave Clooney says, "I was here, just busy at work." And laugh out loud things. Oh, message attracted. But anyway, as I was saying, folks, good night. If you're on the path of this hurricane, please, please be safe. And I will see you. Well, I'll have more material up before Thursday, but we will pencil in next Thursday night at 8, definitely. And until then, be good, be safe, be careful. And I'm looking to see you all again very, 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 very soon. Peace.